No, all of us may not.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This is what we've come back.
I had a little family of about 1,000 exciting council meeting.
Oh. Yeah, I'm not really here about it. Enjoy the show. Right, we're all here. All right to go. Nice. Waiting leaves. Right, welcome everyone to the West Wimmera Shire's February Council meeting. It's good to see a few in the gallery. If you all please be standing. David, if you could read the acknowledgement in the prayer.
The West Wimmera Shire Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and pay respect to elders past, present, and emerging. Let's pray. Almighty God, we humbly ask your blessing upon this council, guide and prosper our decisions to the advancement of your glory and the true welfare of the people of West Wimmera Shire. Amen.
Item 4.1, apologies.
None, Mr. Mayor.
4.2, leave of absence. 4.3, does anyone have any declarations, conflicts of interest? Any items on the agenda? If not, we'll move on to item 5.1, written questions on notice. Have we received any written questions on notice?
None.
And received. Verbal questions on notice. Does the gallery wish to ask any questions?
I'd like to ask the question, if it's all right, Mayor.
Just hang on a moment. We need to suspend standing orders first. Is anyone prepared to move? Moved by Councillor Hicks, seconded by Councillor Pretlove. Discussion required. That's carried. So the rules are fairly simple. It's got to be a question.
Yes.
And have you seen Katie City Council last night? It's not to descend into anything like that. So, yeah. You know, you can just say your name and where you're from for the minutes, please.
In relation to recent letterbox drop in the Canova area, I was concerned at the consultation process the council was using. And the question I would like to ask would be, what process, documented process, does the council have for consulting with ratepayers in regard to issues that relate to ratepayers? And is it documented, and why don't I know what it is? That's probably the most important part. But thank you.
Thank you. Well, council does have an engagement policy. It is documented, the policy, it's there available. Anything that has to be, by the act where the community has to be consulted, we have to follow the policy. And the specific matter you're talking about, I do have a conflict of interest, so I cannot discuss it myself personally now. I don't know of any staff member who's willing to provide further detail on that.
Well, I could certainly provide, and it's not really a matter of an individual situation now, we're just speaking generally. That community engagement policy, which coincidentally is also coming up for review, because they have a lifespan, if you like, and we're sure that they're changed. So that policy outlines the requirements that we have to abide by in terms of any community engagement. But having said that, as the Mayor mentioned, there are some legislative requirements, especially in relation to perhaps the environment, correct me if I'm wrong, Brendan, maybe in planning as well, where there are requirements that are actually legislative requirements. In other words, they supersede anything that council might have. Yep. So I suppose the quick answer is we have a community engagement policy, and that's where the requirements or where our community engagement processes and the circumstances in which they occur are documented.
Right. If I can follow up with a shorter question,
Yeah, well,
do
you're only allowed 2 questions, so yeah.
well, I've had one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
My numeracy is still reasonably good.
Yeah.
Do you think the council gave sufficient time for ratepayers to respond to the notice that was served on them? If I can just add something here, look, it was 4 o'clock on a Friday on a long weekend during school holidays, and it gave me 48 hours to respond when I wasn't in the state. So that makes it, to me, that seemed very short notice. I'd just like to say I support the project, support the process. It's that part of the process that really, I think, the council may have let itself down. But that's not a question, that's a statement.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to follow it up with you, and we'll get back to you once we've gone through our own policy and make sure that we follow the policy. And like you said, the policy is up for review. If we think that things like that are failing, then they'll definitely have to be reviewed and hopefully fixed.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Charlie. Tom, you have further?
Could I just say something here? It was about applying for a grant, and we were pushed for time for applying for this grant. And, you know, when you apply for a grant, if they say it's got to be in by Tuesday, it's no good putting it in on Wednesday and saying you're overworked or you didn't have time. And that was part of the problem here. We were pushed for time to get this grant in.
I appreciate that.
And obviously it came back on the people that were involved.
Just on the record, I've already met with the CEO on this, and I'm quite happy with it, and we got a very good hearing, I must. Yeah, I would still be disappointed if that was to happen again.
Yeah.
Again,
No,
a statement, not a question. Sorry.
No. Look, Charlie, we certainly hear concerns, and you know, we certainly do understand that perhaps it wasn't good enough notice, and we certainly, we accept that, and hopefully we can improve in the future. Does anyone else have any questions?
I haven't got any at this moment.
No,
I've run out.
Look, you're welcome to hang around after the meeting. We do have a confidential meeting to get through at the end of this one, but after that, you're welcome to hang around and have a chat with us. I'm sure, like you said, we are all open, accessible. We do like hearing from people, so please hang around for that.
Yes, please.
Jeff, you got a question or not? No? Okay, is anyone prepared to resume standing orders? That's needed by Councillor Pretloff, seconded by Councillor Hicks. No discussion required. That is carried. Move to item 6, the delegates report. Start with yourself. Had the Timbertowns Victoria AGM at December. Somehow I've ended up being the vice president of that group now. Again, it is a positive group to be a part of. Since we've left it, we've been missing out on over $1 million of road funding. So to be back in that group and to actually use it to get some road funding back into where we have forestry is very, very important. And to sort of have that role now in the executive, so hopefully will help our case out a lot as well. I attended the Australia Day functions both at Kaniva and Durgam, so I got to see the full stretch of the Shire, so that was good. The Kaniva event was a fantastic event, well attended. And again, Durgam was a fantastic event, and it's some of the most friendly people you meet in our Shires down at Durgam. It's one of the most fun days you'll have going to that event. So I encourage everyone to be attending these. And one of the special things at Durgam as well was they had quite a few visitors from Casterton there. So as soon as the Glenelg Shire weren't so keen on having Australia Day events, they certainly found the nearest one, and well done to them. One item on here that isn't listed, which is my fault for not getting it into the diary, was we had the Wimmera Southern Mallee Development board meeting. Again, there's quite a number of developments there, and that will need to discuss further at forum regarding the direction of that group. Otherwise, the rest can be taken as read. Councillor Pretloff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So taken as read, thank you. But I'd also like to mention the recent fires in the middle of our shire, central in the shire. I think we need to be mindful and thank all our volunteers, the departments that did get involved. And I really hope, I know actually I'll bring this up first. So that was all in the Little Desert. We also had the Perone fire probably 5 days before, which was burnt a strip that looked like it could have threatened Goroke as well. But I guess, yes, I'd like to really thank our volunteers, not just the CFA members, but also the local, the private units and all of the people that just pulled together, because, you know, Goroke really had a harrowing time on that Sunday night. I couldn't imagine how, you know, just the stress that town was under when it was evacuated. And, you know, it's just a credit to all of those groups that just have just tirelessly give their time and their, you know, just, and under all of that pressure that they're under. So I think that we really need to note and just the fact that has happened. And at the other side of the Little Desert, we've had the Kaniva community under threat. You know, the minute the wind changed, everyone was relieved, but it then put pressure on the other end. So, you know, particularly, I guess all of this was happening while the Grampian fires were, you know, Grampians were under threat. But I must say, I just hope that this does not fall on deaf ears, because I, for one, am very disappointed in the way that our departments seem to manage some of these state forests. You know, it's okay to protect the forest and everything quite often comes back to climate change. Well, I believe lightning strike has happened forever and a day, and it will continue to happen. We need to learn how to manage some of these forests. You know, it's not right that in one whole, you get the bad days, the heat, the winds, everything, that we can wipe out a whole Little Desert. Our departments, if they want to look after this, they need to do it properly. We need a kilometre strips burnt out, cold burns, so that these fires can be pulled up on those atrocious days. So I hope that this isn't just put down to climate change, and I hope that we can, you know, it can be understood that you need an ignition of something to start a fire, and then you need the wind to take it. But while there's fuel, it will burn, and I'm just disappointed in what's gone on to think that we've had such a great loss in the middle of this shire through, I believe, things not being managed correctly. So you know, the animals and what we've lost here is just, it's such a shame. And for people to sit in their offices and think that this is good enough and let our shire come under threat like it has through, you know, negligence, I think it's really poor. So I just had to put that out there. I really hope that we can work together and we don't need to see this type of thing happen again. And on a happier front, I just want to mention the music marathon that we've just had on the weekend. That is in the centre of our shire, and it attracts a lot of people. And I believe it's not just that event that's the winner. There are so many surrounding businesses in and out of this shire that really benefit from that. So I'm proud to be involved in that, and it's been going for 32 years, and it really was another good event. And I must mention the Henley on Lake Wallace. That was the week before, and you know, you only had to look in that echo and see the effort that was put into the floats. That, you know, that has been going on for years, over 100 years, in fact, is it? And you know, to think that that sort of effort continually gets made from people is just a credit. And I think that makes everyone feel good when you see that sort of thing and the fun behind it. So a credit to the Henley on Lake Wallace committee as well for all their efforts. Thank you.
You, councillor Hicks.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. A couple of housekeeping rules or items. I didn't go to the Rail Freight Alliance. That probably should be removed. The date of the Western Highway Action Committee was the 31st of January, not the 31st of December. And the acronym for Western Highway Action Committee is WAC. And Mr Mayor, you were a whacker on that day. Councillor Hobbs, you were also a whacker. So I don't know whether you want to include that in your activities. And I've been dying to call you a whacker for a long time, Tim, but don't worry. Western Highway Committee was a really interesting meeting. The Shire actually hosted it in Coniva, which is the second time I think ever that we've done that. We always seem to be expected to drive to Melton or Bacchus Marsh or somewhere like that, but trying to get them to come up our way, I don't quite understand. It seems to me roughly the same distance from Coniva to Bacchus Marsh as it is from Bacchus Marsh to Coniva, but apparently they're different miles. But we did manage to have about 12 in attendance, with quite a number online. So I think it was a really valuable exercise for those who did make the journey to see this western end of the highway and probably experience the delightful condition that the road finds itself in these days. I think it probably surprised a few just to realise how poor the Western Highway is as the major route really between Perth and Melbourne. And it continues to deteriorate and we continue to get no funding for it. And even in those areas closer to Melbourne, they are struggling with funding. I think we all know the section between Ararat and Buangor has been on the to-do list for 15 years or something. It's no closer really to even a commencement, let alone a finish. So, you know, and there's been a number of deaths on that section and still it doesn't seem to have caused any progression, which is disappointing. And there are certainly other sections down the rest of the highway that are in drastic need of repair, and also other activities like the Horsham bypass. I think the general consensus is very little will be done in the next 4 or 5 years with the state and federal government funding crisis. And I'm not too sure how much more deterioration can be expected before we need to start running up and down with military tanks that can't fall apart through the potholes. So anyhow, the meeting was interesting, and the rest really, Mr Mayor, is as read.
Thank you, councillor Hobbs.
So I think it's really good to hear that the Coniva Visitor Information Centre is back open again tomorrow. The Henley on Lake Wallace Festival, and I also attended that, plus the Australia Day, and as Councillor Pretlove said, there was the Lake Charlie Bra Country Music Festival, and all of these events, you know, like huge amount of volunteers to do it, plus the flow-on economic benefits to each town is brilliant. I also attended the Surveston Steampunk photo shoot, which was so exciting to see people dressed up in costume, and once again 100% volunteer effort of people trying to put this place on the map. And other than that, I'm looking forward to attending the Grampian State of a Region conference in Ararat on Friday, and the Edenhope Artist Residency, their open day on Sunday.
Thank you, councillor Horan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Australia Day, I attended at Grove first thing in the morning. Very well attended, very well run event. I went from there to Harrow. Yes, big crowd Harrow on the river there, but big crowd of wasps, whatever they are, just dangerous animals, dangerous flying bugs. And if there was a downer for Australia Day, it was these goddamn things. Just further to what Jodie said with our fires, I totally agree with what she said. Last November, I travelled from Harrow to Newcastle one way, Newcastle back to Harrow another way, over 1,000 k's, and not in one area did I see any fire precaution burning done. No fire breaks, nothing. And after what happened 4 or 5 years ago on the east coast of Australia, and there was quite a few lives lost, I was hoping that the people in power might have learned something. I think we've now got to a stage where we've got to go back to the Indigenous way of preparing, protecting ourselves against fire. And by that I mean the scrub there that behind Harrow, my father, grandfather and great-grandfather, back before they had trucks too, used to burn that every 5 to 10 years. But in April, May, June, what they call a coal burn. And these people that are allowing and against burning scrubs and what have you are just killing animals, killing the little bugs. Because in a hot burn, it destroys everything, the vegetation, and then what comes back after that vegetation isn't the natural, the same bush. These scrubs behind Harrow, when they burnt them, we used to walk through them and fox whistle. Now you can't walk through the scrubs because of this, what they call acacia bush being a native. It's not the same acacia bush that was around when I was a kid walking through it. You can't walk through these scrubs. You can't whistle a fox, but if you did whistling, you wouldn't be able to see him coming. And that's because of these hot burns. And the other thing about the hot burns is lives were lost here half a dozen years ago on the East Coast fires. So it's time we went back to farming our bush the way the Indigenous did it. And I hope the powers to be are listening to this, because that's what we've got to do, or else we're going to have a massive loss of life here at some stage. And it's no good saying then we should have done something. I'm asking that something be done about it now and they go back to the old ways. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Jodie, you got more to add?
Yeah, I do. I forgot to add that just the commitment as well that come out of West Wimmera Shire Council around the time of the fire, and just recognise or just make mention of what David has, activated an action plan and had work crews on the ground doing what we could with our equipment and things as well, because I think that, that is pretty important that people realise just how things were dropped and we had crews out doing things. So well done, David. Thank you.
I just did miss one thing too. I just want to thank the volunteer firefighters, the volunteers on the field paid trucks. Fantastic job. Sorry, I missed that. Could also welcome Dalton Burns to this council meeting too.
I can see him online, yep.
If I could welcome you, Dalton, premiership player for the last 2 years.
Secret Harrow handshake. I know. We'll move on to item 7, condolences. I believe we have none. Item 8, previous minutes. We've got 4 lots here. Is anyone prepared to move one block?
Could I move 8.1, 2, 3 and 4, Mayor?
Okay, moves. Prepared to second that. Mr. Hobbs has seconded. Any discussion required? Not put the vote. All in favour. That is carried. business arising from the previous minutes. We have received no notice of motion. Councillor on record from December 2024. That is moved by Councillor Hicks. Second, Councillor Pretlow, the second. All in favour? That is carried. Have we received any deputations or petitions? None received. We move to 13.1, the financial report for quarter 1 and quarter 2, including the annual plan update.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In accordance with our legislative obligations, Council officers submitting a consolidated report for Q1 and Q2 financial year 2025. In other words, from the 1st of July 24 to the 31st of December 2024. The report is supported by a number of documents, including a profit and loss balance sheet, statement of cash flows, and a capital works report. Just to highlight the major considerations. Unfortunately, the timing of grant funding from other levels of government has impacted upon the cash position, which is forecasted in the budget. And in addition to that, there are seasonal considerations which have impeded the progress of the capital works schedule as at the 31st of December 2024. The timing of grants, in addition, the timing of the receipt of grants, and in addition, the general contraction in grant availability and the heightened assessment processes that all grants seem to be involved with at the moment, have resulted in, especially the timing issue here, that capital grants for that period were 61% less than the budgeted amount, and that is purely a timing issue. And the budget was prepared on the basis that grants were being received in a certain time frame, which historically they had been received, and then for whatever reason, that timing frequency was changed by other levels of government. In terms of the seasonality, at the 31st of December, due to climatic issues, only 26% of the capital works program had been completed. Now that has ramped up since then, but of course that relatively low rate of completion has implications for the ability to capitalise expenses. We're expecting that to be brought up to budgeted levels by the end of the financial year. All the other supporting documentation is there for councillors. Is there any questions?
Thanks.
Thanks, James. From what I understand, council would normally consider quarter 1 and quarter 2 as two separate reports.
Indeed.
But on this occasion, they've been joined together, which is a result of council going into a caretaker period during October and then the elections at the end of October. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, what the point of this was to ensure that the most holistic snapshot of council's position would be given to the new council, to the sitting council. And it was determined that the intervention of the caretaker period, even though council was still able to sit, the old council was able to sit, for various reporting reasons, the decision was made that the consolidation of both Q1 and Q2 would provide a more accurate and holistic idea of where we were tracking for that 6-month period.
Thank you.
Just for the interest of really the room, the capital grants that were held back or we didn't receive when it was budgeted, were they received fully in July?
We didn't.
Or the balance?
I think the balance, Brendan, we're talking about the fags there. I think.
For this 6-month reporting period.
Yes.
Is 1st of July to the 31st of December.
Yes, it is.
And there was.
So we did get fags in that first week of July.
First week of July.
Yeah. So it's all been now. We have received all of that monies that was held
subsequently
Yeah.
received the balance, didn't we?
Yeah.
They do pay 80% upfront,
Yes.
and 20% I think dribbles out through the year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it's substantial, but I know you can't predict the weather. Only 20% of capital works being completed. Are we at risk of not
Yeah.
completing the works?
Look, I'm looking at that number there too. I guess 2 million of that is the plant and the fleet program, and it's showing at about 25% complete, but I know it's nearly all done. The only thing that we haven't got is a crane truck. Everything else is done. So those procurement actions were happening in December and January. Unfortunately, we don't count them as paid until they're here and on the ground and then it's paid. So it's a lagging indicator, if you like, for
Yes.
that. The road construction jobs, you would be aware, South Willamette is finished. Moree Road, we're in North constructing. All the reseals and all but done. All the reshedding is 3/4 done. So I'm confident that those elements will be complete. They're the biggest tickets in there. Sealed road construction, reseals, reshedding. Shoulder reshedding is probably the one that's still got the most to go, but all the gravel's carted and ready, stockpiled, and really their jobs they'll get into after the construction stops. Get back into shoulder reshedding.
So as long as the stockpiles don't get pinched on us in the meantime. Yeah, so you're confident that we should be able to meet what we're budgeted for then? Yeah. Any further questions? Well,
I'm happy to move the recommendation.
moved as recommended. Anyone prepared to second that? Councillor Hobbs, seconded it. Mover wish to speak?
No, I just thank staff really for the work that they do, putting this together, compiling it. But, it is disappointing, I guess, when our books reflect that, or what they reflect really, it's an indication or it tells us what's gone on. But really when so much money is held over that we were, I guess, budgeting for and held over to another financial year or to the next financial year, really that reporting, is a formality that is out of our control really it doesn't make our books look as good, but it doesn't take long to balance up. It's just one of those things that is out of our control. So I support that we receive the financial report. Thank you.
Second wish to speak?
Just want to thank the staff for the huge amount of work that they've done in getting it to this stage.
Anyone else wish to speak? Just want to make a couple of quick comments. The reason that we're in this position, the federal government changing the timing of the grants, simply so the federal government could shift things off their books for another year to show that they had a budget surplus. It's just them cooking the books for their own benefit, and we're the ones who are paying the price. We're the ones who have had our budget thrown in absolute chaos from this, just from them trying to convince people that they know how to manage money. We've been very fortunate that we have managed our money very well over the years, and we've had that buffer built into our budget with our cash reserves. So all the years that people wandering around saying, oh, council's got all this money and they won't look after us, well, this is why we've got it. This is what it exists for. This is what saved us. This is why our pants are still up and we'll be okay. So again, we just got to not panic and realise that we've been well planned and well organised for this. So again, I'll support the motion. Does the mover wish to sum up?
No, thank you.
Put us to the vote. All in favour? That's carried. Fourteen point one, the council internal resolution procedure.
In accordance with amendments to the Local Government Governance and Integrity Regulations 2020 and the Local Government Act that came into effect last October 2024, councillors must abide by the Model Councillor Code of Conduct and must adopt an internal resolution procedure for dealing with alleged breaches of the Model Councillor Code of Conduct. That needs to be done by July of each year. The aim of the internal resolution procedure is to address any alleged breaches of the Model Councillor Code of Conduct before they are escalated to formal processes like internal arbitration. It is acknowledged that this procedure will not be suitable for resolution of all disputes between councillors. The Act specifies that the procedure may be followed. The procedure itself is attached to the report and is reasonably straightforward. The second part of that recommendation is also to revoke the previous council code of conduct, which council was using before October last year, just as a formality.
And that revocation has to occur because it has been superseded by overriding state government
That's
legislation.
Thank you, Katie. Any questions from anyone? Councillor Hicks?
I'm happy to move the recommendations as presented.
Councillor Brewer, I can
I'll
second.
second it.
Katie seconding. Does the leader wish to speak?
Just a couple of brief comments. I have confidence in moving these recommendations, knowing that Maddocks, our solicitor consultants, have very carefully reviewed this document and gone through it, and have aligned this document with the requirements of the Local Government Act of 2020. It is a requirement, as you've mentioned, that we adopt some form of resolution procedure, and I think this procedure as presented is fair and equitable to all partners, or all participants, all councillors, and I'm pleased that it's come forward now to be hopefully ratified by council.
Is there going to wish to speak?
Yes, I support this. I think it is a better system. It's one of the better things that is mandated and come under a state model councillor code of conduct. I think it needs to be all in line really, and all so all councillors are on the same page and under the same code really. And yeah, I only see it positive. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Anyone wish to sum up?
No.
Put to the vote then, all in favour, that is carried. 14.2, the Living Libraries Infrastructure Program, open access fit out for Wimmera Libraries.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Under the Wimmera Libraries banner, Horsham Rural City Council and West Wimmera Shire Council deliver library services to the region. There is an opportunity for Sarah Wiesner, who's the coordinator of the library service, on behalf of Horsham Rural City Council, to lodge an application for grant funding amounting to approximately $170,000 for the purpose of an open access fit out to library premises to enable after hours access to those premises by the installation of various types of technology, swipe cards, PIN numbers, and things like that. The idea of open access or greater access to libraries is to facilitate, I think, greater use of those facilities and to re-energise libraries as a place for, as a resource for their communities. Now, part of that application will also involve, at no cost to our shire or our council, a mirror application, because we, of course, at West Wimmera are partners to the Wimmera Libraries, and also because some of the premises where the libraries services are currently being conducted, of course, are owned by West Wimmera Shire Council. So what the recommendation seeks is council's authorisation for the lodgement of a funding application for the purposes of that open access fit out for Wimmera Libraries branches. The recommendation only relates to, of course, authorisation for the application. Should the application be successful, or should any proposed works be mooted for any West Wimmera Shire owned premises, that separately would be subject to approval from council before such work could be allowed to continue.
Are there any questions? Richard,
I'm happy to move the officer recommendation as presented.
I'm prepared to second that. Councillor Hobbs has seconded. Let's move to speak.
Yeah, just briefly, I think this is a really important development in terms of the usage that our libraries might get and the access to those library users, the access to be made more convenient to the users in their own time than perhaps is the case now. With using this technology, you know, they've got the opportunity of going to the library, returning books, and I presume borrowing books at their convenience, provided they have the right access and codes. There's certainly been ongoing complaints over the years of people coming into town from the farm, wanting to go to the library. Oh, bugger, it's not open. You know, I'll have to go home. I can't return the books, or I can't get any new ones. I think this will alleviate a lot of those issues, and hopefully also make the library a more accessible and user-friendly facility. The council pays quite a lot of money to maintain library facilities through the Shire, and we can only justify that expenditure if the libraries are utilised appropriately. And I think by enabling the access hours to be extended will be a benefit to everyone who wants to use the library. So I'm very happy to move this recommendation.
Second wish to speak.
Yeah, just to reiterate that, I think it's a really great, innovative idea, and particularly for small rural communities like ours, where we don't have that liberty of having a library that's open, as would be Horsham Library saying. So I'm assuming that, you know, all the staff are on board with it, but I think it will have massive benefits in improving accessibility for residents and users, and it will just help the libraries become more sustainable long term.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? I'll just add one little point here. We've heard concerns, you know, the people are just going to go in there and trash the library and things like that. Well, I don't want to cast aspersions on other towns, but I have seen this operating in other areas and they have had zero incidents. The system works very well. It really gives families and individuals a real opportunity to access the library. And, you know, I'm quite happy to support it. Yep. Does it wish to sum up?
No, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Put it to the vote. All in favour? That is carried. 14.3, the appointment of Audit and Risk Committee Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. West Shire Council has an Audit and Risk Committee, which is composed of 5 members, two of whom are elected councillors, and 3 are what's called independent members. Now, that committee is charged under the Audit and Risk Committee Charter to supervise finance, risk-related and governance issues to ensure that council conducts its procedures in the most best practice and transparent way possible. So the Audit and Risk Committee is a review committee that really checks up on the progress of our financial risk management and governance processes. In November last year, the chairperson, Mr. Mick Jantz, resigned from that committee for professional reasons. He had been serving for, I think, almost 4 years as the chairperson of our committee, and he was instrumental in leading that committee to, I think, a very important role in terms of the oversight of council processes and ensuring that we were doing things in the best practice way possible. Following an extensive advertising campaign, I'm happy to report that the selection panel has arrived at a replacement Audit and Risk Committee chairperson, and his name is Mr. Richard Ainio. He is currently on the board, on the audit risk committee or management committees of a number of different organisations, and he has extensive auditing and finance experience both in public industry and also in private enterprise within Australia and indeed internationally as well. In accordance with the terms of the Charter, Council is required to appoint him formally by means of a resolution as the new chairperson of the West Wimmera Shire Council Audit and Risk Committee. In addition, councillors will notice on the resolution that the remuneration is specified at $800 excluding GST per meeting for the chairperson, which is 10% more under the Charter than is payable to the independent members, that amount being 0.3 of the resolution, $727.27 excluding GST per meeting.
Any questions?
I don't, but I'm happy to move the officer recommendation.
Second.
Seconded by councillor Hicks. Wish to speak?
Yes. I've been on the audit and risk committee for the last, this will be my 9th year. I've learnt a lot. I look forward to meeting Mr. Richard Anio. I'm hearing he'll bring a lot of expertise to the committee, but it is really important to have this one. To have the checks and balances and just to, the eye and the audits that go on behind the scenes to check off our processes and procedures is paramount. So I certainly, like I said, look forward to meeting Richard, and it's very supportive. We have, it's a position that we can't do without. So I support the motion.
So I wish to speak.
Yeah, just a brief comment. I think it's really good that this appointment has been made, or the opportunity for this appointment has been made so quickly following the departure of our previous chairman. It's 2 months. It's not a big gap in such, business world, if you like. And so there'll be no lag in terms of chairman oversight and control of the Audit and Risk Committee. It is a very important committee. It has a lot of responsibility. The government relies on their advice as much as we rely on it in terms of they go and their activities. And so I think it's great that we've got someone, and hopefully you'll be appointed in a matter of 15 seconds.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Does anyone wish to sum up?
No.
Put it to the vote then, all in favour? It's carried.
It was 15 seconds.
And just on the personal note, I'd like to welcome Richard as well, and we wish him all the best, and I look forward to him chairing our deliberations on that committee. So thank you, Richard.
That's not me.
The other Richard. To item 15.1, tree planting on council road reserves policy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Part of our regular review of policies, as was mentioned earlier in the meeting, we've been reviewing the policies regarding tree planting on road reserves. It was seen that we had a couple of policies that pretty much duplicated each other in dealing with constructed roads and unconstructed roads. So this report recommends to council to combine those two into just a West Wimmera Shire Council road reserves policy for tree planting. Report is there, the attached policy is there. Second part of the resolution is to revoke the unused road reserves policy because it's been incorporated into this one. I believe there are some suggested amendments to clause 1 and clause 6. If the council is so inclined, they make the recommendation to incorporate that, that would be good.
Are there any questions? Yeah. Richard, are you going to motion?
No, I've got a motion. I'm happy to move the officer recommendations, taking note of those couple of minor changes as highlighted by you, Brendan.
I think the amendments will need to be read out.
Yeah, I've got them here.
Oh, have you?
That
Right, okay.
we discussed earlier. So the amendments to the policy were to point 1. So that is the first part of point 1, which is council will consider planting applications only if adjoining landholders have provided written consent. So that's the first paragraph of 1. And the other is to section 6. Do you want me to read the rest of that out? Or not?
Yeah,
The rest of the.
oh, no,
part?
just,
No.
the amended part from the one
And
paragraph.
the amended part of point 6 is any person or group who plants trees on road reserves without prior approval from council will be asked to retrospectively apply to council and rectify their planting, which may include removing all of the trees to ensure it meets the requirements within the policy. Where a person or group cannot be found responsible, council reserve the right to remove the trees. So that, slot that in.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to second.
The minute takers have that. Yep. You're happy to have that as a motion, Richard?
Yes,
Yep,
absolutely.
yep. Okay, seconded by councillor Fretlove. Mover wish to speak?
Just a quick comment. I think it's very good this policy's been updated and combined with a couple of other policies that we had in the past. As with any policy, that they need to be regularly reviewed and revisited, and there no doubt will be comments in the future about this policy, but right now I think it's a very appropriate consolidation of those two previous policies, and it gives clear guidelines to council at this stage.
Second wish to speak?
Just support councillor Hicks's comments, and it is always good if we can consolidate a couple of policies. Less isn't always best, but I think in this one it might be. So.
It's only 90 or 100 policies or something, Jodie. We
Yes.
enjoy them every night when we read them.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? If not, move wish to sum up.
No, thank you very much.
Put it to the vote then, all in favour? That is carried. Item 16, the ceiling schedule. Ceiling schedule. Item 17, late items of business. Do we have items of business?
Mr. Mayor, there's two matters that came to my attention since the distribution of the agenda that I feel is important to raise today, and if council would allow those two items to be added to the agenda for discussion. The first one is a decision with respect to fire services levies, and the second one is with respect to Blaze 8. So if council could maybe first just indicate whether they would be prepared to handle those two late items.
Yeah, I'm prepared to accept them on the basis that they have been arisen since the agenda came out, and we cannot defer these. These are urgent matters. So if anyone's prepared to move the motion.
I'm happy to move the council accept these two items for consideration under items of late business.
That's moved. Councillor Hoyland, you're seconding.
Yes, I am.
No discussion required.
Sorry, I thought you forgot.
Put it to the vote. All in favour? That is carried. Item 1 will be the fire service property levy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So with respect to the fire services levy, an obligation was basically placed sort of on local governments through our property rating system to basically assist the government with collecting those levies. And this is creating a significant sort of administrative complexity, and I believe would also sort of divert some of the resources from local government to be able to assist with these functions. So really what I'm asking sort of council is just to consider the appropriateness of this direction for council to collect these levies on behalf of the state government.
James, you have further to add to this?
Yes.
Yes.
Possible. Just some background on what's called the what will be called the Emergency Services and Volunteers Fund. Obviously, ratepayers are familiar with the Emergency Services Levy that is listed on their notice, that is actually collected by council, but that has nothing to do with council whatsoever. So in terms of some basic background regarding the changes which will be effective 1st of July, it's going to be now known as the Emergency Services and Volunteers Fund. Volunteers in certain emergency services will be exempted from having to pay it, but only on their principal place of residence. So in other words, if you have more than one property and you're a volunteer in the CFA, you'll be exempt from paying it on your principal place of residence, not for your other one. Now, there's a fixed charge component, which is of course going up, but more importantly, there's also a variable charge component, which is increasing. Now, coming to the new financial year, residential assessments can expect a 50% increase in this charge. Commercial assessments can expect a 49.9%, as good as 50% increase. Rural assessments can expect a 36% increase in the actual charge that will be listed on your rate notice. Further, the vacant category, which currently does have an implication for your emergency services liability in this financial year, will be abolished. And that means that with the abolition of the vacant category, any other properties that are, even if they're vacant, if they're in the residential area, 50% increase. If they're vacant and in the commercial, 50% increase. So in other words, everyone is going within those four categories. So this will be a substantial increase, nothing to do with council, but a substantial increase that ratepayers will see on their certificates and on their renewal on their rates assessments in the 25-26 financial year.
Quick question: the exemption, that's only going to apply to the fixed rate part of it, not the variable rate part of it.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. So you're still going to be stuck with the variable rate part, which is the substantially larger part of the fee. You're still going to cop that.
I think the fixed one's only about 180 or something.
Yeah.
Around 180 or 170 or something.
All our farmers around here paying $5,000 or $6,000, well, they're not going to get any exception, basically.
Oh, no.
No.
They're going to be a little bit grumpy, I'd say.
I think so. Are there any other questions? Councillor Hicks?
I'm happy to move the motion, Mr Mayor.
Yep.
I better read it out. Oh,
You know,
I better read the motion out because it hasn't been advertised. The motion is that council write to the Premier and Minister for Local Government to express our concerns regarding the collection of the Emergency Services and Volunteers Fund. Specifically, that the collection of this fund be managed directly by the state government rather than local governments to ensure a more streamlined and efficient process for all parties involved. Thank you.
Councillor Purtlow, you agree? Seconding the motion?
Yeah.
Does the member wish to speak?
Yeah, I do. I think most of us were pretty horrified when the state government recently announced this rather eye-watering increase to do with the fire services property levy and renaming it some very fancy name, ESVF. I think in most people are concerned that we are constantly being challenged with increased costs for just about everything, and to increase the levy by, we'll say 50% or thereabouts is, and the levy currently is quite a significant portion of the figure on your current rate notice will cause, I think, a lot of concern within the community. Personally, I'm not happy that councils in general will get accused of being the instigators of this fee increase, when in fact it's nothing to do with us. We haven't had any say in this levy. We are merely the collectors on behalf of a government who's too gutless to get their own money. And again, it takes a lot of effort on behalf of James and his team to collect all this money and then to refund it to the state government, for which we get no thanks and no real acknowledgement of the work involved. I do note that in South Australia, for example, when you're billed with their emergency services levy, it's a totally different invoice that comes, I presume, from the state government. It is not associated by any means with any municipal or shire rate notice. It's quite an independent bill, which obviously has to be paid, but there at least the pain is separated, and it's clearly identified that this is to do with your rates, your land tax, if you like, and this other one is to do with the provision of emergency services throughout the state. And I believe and strongly support that Victoria should go to a similar system whereby those two taxes, they are taxes, are quite clearly delineated, that one is a tax, a fee raised by local governments, which is our rate notices, and the other one is this emergency services and volunteers fund, which is an imposition tax by the state government. And I think they need to put up their hand and own up to it and collect their own monies. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Second, wish to speak.
Look, I couldn't agree more with Councillor Hicks. I find it's really disappointing that this type of increase has to be attached, or it's, I guess, and it's an attempt to attach it to councils to really try and get a bit of money back in one hand that is irresponsibly spent in the other hand. So I just find it really, really disappointing. This is not going to go down well. Landholders are, still trying to get their head around the increase in the previous fire service levy. So I'm, like I say, totally disappointed. This is just a typical, how do we make some money? Where are we going to get it from? We do the nice, fairly good thing one hand and we're going to slug it from the other. So I'm just totally disappointed. If we can do something that just at least does not attach this to this table and the five of us that represent our communities, because I don't like that. That's, like I said, I can't support it at all. So if that's how we sort of respond and kick back with, just at least get it away from our rates notices, so that the general public realise that we have no part in any of this. Thank you.
Councillor Houlihan.
I think this is a situation where we're being asked to do someone else's dirty work.
Absolutely.
And to put it on the rate notice, 90% of people, when they see their rates, through council, look at that, they won't read it deeply enough to find out. They'll just assume that their rates have gone up. Whereas all we're doing here is handling a lot of money for the state government, which will cost us too, because we'll have to have staff to do it. I just think it's a very poor system that they're putting in place here, and just a system that will cause conflict between a lot of people. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wish to speak? I'll add a piece to it then. Because while I agree with everyone, I actually would have went a lot further even. I think this is utterly despicable. I think this is a great example of a cost shift from the government, a government who cannot manage money to save themselves, They've had to raise this up because they've got an enormous hole in their budget to cover the AAO emergency phones. They've got a disaster of their own creating, and they're passing the buck onto us on council. It's an absolute disgrace. We are living in a rate capped environment. We're not allowed to put up our rates more than the cost of living. And here they are jacking this up 50%. It's an absolute disgrace, and then passing it on to us. So we get our heads kicked in over it. It's gutless. I think we need to be going even stronger on this. I think we need to actually be advertising this. We need to be putting leaflets in people's letterboxes with the picture of the Premier on it, saying this is her tax on them. That's how I would have taken it. And what we get out of it, our funding for the CFA's been miserable.
Yeah.
We hear all them complaining about 15-year-old trucks in the city. We've got 30-year-old trucks here. I see our friend from the ABC is watching us. I invite them to go out to Goroka and have a look at the facilities there. They can't even get a new truck because it doesn't even fit in the shed. And they're on a waiting list for 15 years to get a new shed. It's a disgrace. And here we are slugging everyone an extra 50% to pay for it. The same volunteers are out there doing the work. I think we should be going even stronger on this one. But anyway, happy to support it. Does the mover wish to sum up?
Only to say, quite agree with you, Mr. Mayor. I do think it's a disgrace, and I think it's abhorrent that we as council are being asked to do their dirty work in terms of collecting their stinking tax. And like you said, we get bugger all back. I see from the notes that this tax is close to $1 billion, of which we'll see precisely almost nothing that's actually going to be contributed back to our shire, yet we'll have to do the collecting for them. So I hope that fellow councillors support the motion.
Those the vote, all in favour? That's carried.
Unanimously, can we add? Strongly and unanimously.
With acclamation. Item 2.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The second item is following the recent fires in our shire. There is an urgent need to mobilise Blaze Aid to assist property owners in their recovery efforts, and I'm specifically referring to fencing. There might be more things, but fencing is really a standout item. Mobilisation costs for Blaze Aid is approximately $5,000. There is a indication that we will be able to share that cost with a neighbouring council that's also been affected by these fires. And I'm asking council today to consider making a contribution to those mobilisation costs for Blaze Aid.
Any questions? Or a motion? That's Lex.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to move a motion that the West River Shire Council donates $2,500 from our quick response grant allocation to Blaze Aid mobilisation cost to support property owners with recovery after the recent fires.
Second motion, Councillor Pretlove. Who was first?
Tom Penn.
Councillor Hallhan. Councillor Hallhan. Second. Does the mover wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think most of us around the table and in the gallery are aware of the work that Blaze Aid has done in the past. They're a very highly regarded, a very professional and a very humanitarian group that is generally very quick off the mark to mobilise and to come in to provide material support for the reconstruction following natural disasters. I think we're also very well aware of the incredible area with the Little Desert fire that we recently had. Last estimates are around about 100,000 hectares were burnt. That, incidentally, just so you can do your maths, that's an area of 1,000 square kilometres, which is a massive area and about 95% of the area of the park. And obviously within that, there are boundary fences and internal fences that have been destroyed. And I think it would be a great benefit to those landholders if Blaze Aid would come in with their experience in their facilities and provide support for the reconstruction of those fences. And I think that we hope that council every year sets money aside for this quick response grant. And to date, this financial year, we've not used any of those funds that are allocated within that line item. And I think this is the perfect opportunity to use some of that money to support encouraging Blaze Aid to mobilise to come in to our shire, along with Hindmarsh Shire, to start the reconstruction phase. Thank you.
Is there a second that wish to speak?
Yeah, just, I'd like to thank and congratulate Blaze Aid for a start off. I've worked with them. The job they do is, you've got to see it to believe it. That's how good these people are. And I fully appreciate the fact that we're putting out $2,500. I think that's some of the best money the Shire will spend in this financial year. And to the Blaze Aid volunteers, thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against? Councillor Hobbs?
Yeah, just want to agree and reiterate what councillor Hicks and councillor Houlihan have said. But also just to say that that quick response grant has been set up specifically for emergency measures like this.
Anyone else wish to speak? I just want to make one quick little point here. Even though we're calling it Goroke, I believe there's going to be another camp set up in the Dimbool and Nil area, who will also help the landowners at the northern side of the Little Desert. So it's we're not just sort of favouring one part of the Shire, that's for sure. So, yeah. So move wish to sum up.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All in favour then? That is carried. We have the following 5 confidential items to go through: a business streetscape grant application, an unused road licence, the provision of the maternal, child and health services, the provision of youth services, and the provision of early year services. Is anyone prepared to move that would move to confidential? Moved by Councillor Fretwell, seconded by Councillor Houlihan, as the recommendation is. All those in favour? That is carried. Now, hopefully we can get through these quickly if you do choose to hang around. It's not far to the pub or the cafe or whatever you want to do, just give it a bit of time.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
We will talk.
Are you
Yeah.
hanging around or are you blowing off like a
No, I've got
fly?
another meeting, so I'm going to
Such
be
a
back.
busy lad.
You cause such havoc and chaos. One cannot be.
You haven't seen me in action yet. Wait till I really cause chaos.
Starting coming to Canal.
Yeah,
Make some order.
There, Tip.
The,